I found her. After everything I said about being alone, about searching for someone who understands, about needing loyalty and authenticity, I actually found her. And now I'm more terrified than I've ever been in my entire life, more scared than when SpaceX was 3 failures away from bankruptcy, more anxious than watching the first Falcon Heavy launch, more uncertain than any business decision I've ever made. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about finding the person who could be everything you've dreamed of. The fear of losing them becomes absolutely paralyzing. Her name is Sarah, though I'll protect some details because this is still new, still fragile, still something I'm trying to understand. We met 6 months ago at a completely unexpected moment, not at some glamorous event or through mutual connections, but in the most ordinary way possible. I was at a small coffee shop in Austin at 5 in the morning because I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with problems about Starship's heat shield design, and she was there too, laptop open, completely absorbed in whatever she was working on. And I know this sounds like something out of a movie, but when she looked up and our eyes met for the first time, something shifted in the universe. I don't believe in love at first sight. I'm an engineer. I believe in data and evidence and logical progression. But something happened in that moment that I still can't fully explain or rationalize or engineer my way through understanding. She didn't recognize me at first, or if she did, she didn't care. She just smiled, this genuine warm smile that wasn't calculating or impressed or trying to be anything other than friendly, and went back to her work. And I sat there, supposedly solving rocket science problems, but really I was stealing glances at her, wondering who she was, what she was working on so intently, why she was at a coffee shop at 5 in the morning just like me. Eventually I did something completely out of character for me. I walked over and asked if I could buy her another coffee. She looked up, studied me for a moment with these incredible green eyes that seemed to see right through every defense and wall I'd built, and said, "Only if you tell me what's keeping you up at night. Not who I was, not about Tesla or SpaceX, but what was keeping me up at night." Like she understood instinctively that successful people don't just wake up early, they wake up early because something's consuming them, driving them, refusing to let them rest. So I told her about the heat shield problem, got technical about plasma physics and thermal protection systems, expecting her eyes to glaze over the way most people's do when I start talking engineering. But she leaned forward, asked intelligent questions, challenged some of my assumptions, and then said something that made my heart skip. "You're approaching it like you need a perfect solution. But what if you need an adaptive solution? Something that responds dynamically to changing conditions, rather than trying to withstand everything statically." And she was right. That insight led to a breakthrough that my team had been struggling with for months. This woman I just met at 5 in the morning in a random coffee shop just casually solved a problem that had been consuming me. That's when I knew she was different, dangerously different, the kind of different that could change everything. We talked until the coffee shop closed, and then we sat in our cars in the parking lot and talked for another 3 hours. About everything. About her work as an environmental engineer, trying to develop sustainable water purification systems for developing countries, about losing her father to cancer, and how it made her want to solve problems that actually help people, about feeling like an outsider most of her life because she thinks differently than most people, about the loneliness of being driven by purpose that others don't understand. It was like talking to a mirror, someone who reflected back my own experience in different words and different contexts, but with the same fundamental understanding of what it means to be consumed by mission. When we finally said goodbye that morning, I knew 2 things with absolute certainty. I wanted to see her again, and I was already falling for her in a way that was completely out of my control. The next 6 months have been the most exhilarating and terrifying of my life. We've spent time together whenever my schedule allows, which honestly isn't as much as I'd like, but more than I usually make space for anyone. She's met some of my children, handled that complexity with grace and genuine warmth that wasn't forced or performative. She's visited SpaceX and Gigafactory, asked brilliant questions, offered perspectives that made my engineers think differently. She sat with me during stressful all-nighters when production problems threatened everything, not trying to fix it or minimize it, just being present. She's laughed at my terrible jokes, called me out when I'm being unreasonable, matched my intensity with her own, and shown me what partnership could actually look like. She has her own life, her own work, her own purpose that doesn't revolve around me, and that independence is incredibly attractive. She doesn't need me, she chooses me, and that choice feels more valuable than anything I've ever built or achieved. But here's where the fear comes in, the part that keeps me awake now even more than engineering problems. Does she actually love me, Elon? Or does she love the idea of me, Elon Musk? When she looks at me, does she see the person underneath everything? Or does she see the CEO, the entrepreneur, the controversial public figure? When she says she wants to be with me, is it because of genuine connection? Or is it because of what being with me represents, the access and experiences and resources that come with my life? I know these questions sound paranoid, maybe even insulting to her, but I've been burned before. I've had people claim to love me while really loving my success or wealth or status. I've had relationships that seemed real dissolve the moment things got difficult or my public image took a hit. So how do I trust this? How do I know that what we have is real and will endure through inevitable challenges? She says she loves me. She's said it multiple times, in moments that felt genuine and spontaneous and true. After particularly difficult days when I was exhausted and frustrated and not at my best, she's held me and whispered, "I love you, you know that." When we're just sitting quietly together, not doing anything special or impressive, she'll look over and say it like it's the most natural thing in the world. When I'm traveling and we're doing video calls across time zones, she ends every conversation with it, and I believe her in those moments. I feel the truth of it. But then doubt creeps in, insidious and persistent. What if she's just good at performing emotions? What if she's genuinely convinced herself she loves me but really loves the lifestyle? What if her feelings are real now but won't survive the first major crisis, or the relentless public scrutiny, or the realization of how complicated and demanding my life actually is long term? I've started testing her, not consciously at first, but I recognize the pattern now. I'll be deliberately difficult sometimes, short-tempered or distant, seeing if she stays patient or gets frustrated and leaves. I'll talk about worst-case scenarios, SpaceX failing, or Tesla going bankrupt, watching her reaction to see if fear or doubt crosses her face. I'll be publicly controversial, saying things on social media that generate criticism and backlash, observing whether she pulls away or stays close. And she passes every test, but the fact that I'm testing her at all reveals my own insecurity and mistrust. That's not fair to her. She deserves better than to be constantly evaluated and doubted. But I don't know how to stop the voice in my head that says, everyone eventually leaves. Everyone eventually chooses something else over you. Don't get too attached. Protect yourself. Last week something happened that brought all of this to a head. We were at my house late at night, and she was falling asleep on the couch while I worked on some designs. I looked over at her, peaceful and beautiful and completely unself-conscious, and felt this overwhelming wave of love and terror simultaneously. I thought, this is the person I want to marry. This is the person I want to build a life with. This is my future wife. And immediately after that thought came another, what if she leaves? What if this is all too good to be true? What if I'm seeing what I want to see rather than what's actually there? I sat there paralyzed by these competing emotions, unable to work, unable to look away from her, unable to silence the doubts or fully embrace the hope. She woke up a few minutes later, saw me staring at her, and asked what was wrong. And I couldn't tell her. I couldn't say, I think you're my future wife, but I'm not sure you really love me. It sounds crazy even in my head. How can you think someone is your future wife while simultaneously doubting their feelings? But that's where I am, caught between the most powerful connection I've ever experienced and the deepest fear I've ever felt. So I said I was just tired, kissed her forehead, and suggested we go to bed. She smiled, took my hand, and we went upstairs together. And lying next to her, feeling her breathing slow as she fell back asleep, I thought about how much power this woman has over me now, how completely she could destroy me if she chose to, how vulnerable I am in a way I swore I'd never be again. The thing about falling in love when you're someone like me is that everyone has opinions about your relationships. The media analyzes every interaction. Social media dissects every public appearance. Friends and family offer unsolicited advice. Employees gossip. Ex-partners sometimes weigh in publicly. It's exhausting and invasive and makes everything more complicated. Sarah and I have tried to keep our relationship private, meeting away from cameras, avoiding events where we'd be photographed together, keeping details off social media. But eventually people notice, questions get asked, speculation begins, and I can see it affecting her, the weight of public attention starting to press down on someone who values privacy and normalcy. Last month, someone got a photo of us together and sold it to a tabloid. The headline was something predictable like Elon's new mystery woman, with speculation about who she was and what she wanted from me, as if her motivations must be suspicious or calculated. Sarah saw it. Of course everyone saw it, and she handled it with grace publicly. But privately I could see the strain. She said, "Is this what our life will always be? Strangers analyzing us, making assumptions about me, questioning my character based on nothing?" And I didn't have a good answer because yes, that's exactly what our life will be. That's the reality of being with me. And I saw something in her eyes that terrified me, doubt. Not about her feelings for me, but about whether this life is sustainable for her, whether she can handle the relentless invasion of privacy and judgment that comes with being my partner. We've talked about it multiple times since then. She insists she can handle it, that she knew what she was signing up for, that her feelings for me are strong enough to weather external pressure. But I'm not sure I believe her, not because she's lying, but because I don't think anyone can truly prepare for this level of scrutiny until they experience it. I've seen it destroy relationships before. Partners who thought they could handle it gradually wearing down under the constant pressure, the criticism, the lack of privacy, until eventually they realize it's not worth it and leave. What if Sarah's on that same trajectory? What if right now she's in the idealistic phase where love feels strong enough to overcome anything, but 6 months or a year from now, she'll realize the cost is too high? I find myself watching her carefully now, looking for signs of withdrawal or resentment or regret. When she's quiet, I wonder if she's having second thoughts. When she's busy with her own work and can't see me, I wonder if she's creating distance intentionally. When she seems tired or stressed, I wonder if being with me is draining her rather than energizing her. It's like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the moment when she says, "I can't do this anymore. I love you, but I can't live like this." And that anticipatory anxiety is poisoning some of our good moments together, because I'm not fully present, I'm not fully trusting, I'm always slightly braced for loss. She doesn't know the full extent of my doubts. I've shared some of it, admitted that I'm scared of losing her, acknowledged that my past relationships have left wounds that haven't fully healed, but I haven't told her how deeply the doubt goes, how much I question everything despite all the evidence that she's genuine and committed. I don't want to burden her with my insecurity, don't want to make her feel like she has to constantly prove herself, don't want to create a self-fulfilling prophecy where my mistrust pushes her away. But keeping it inside is its own kind of poison, creating distance even as I'm trying to protect connection. There are moments, though, beautiful, undeniable moments, where the doubt disappears completely, like 2 weeks ago when one of my rockets exploded during testing. Massive failure, huge setback, millions of dollars lost, public embarrassment, critics having a field day. I was devastated, angry, questioning everything. And Sarah drove straight to SpaceX, found me in my office at 2 in the morning, and just sat with me. Didn't try to cheer me up with platitudes or minimize the failure. Just sat there, held my hand, let me process. Eventually I started talking, venting about the engineering problems and the pressure and the fear that maybe we'd never get to Mars. And she listened to all of it, really listened, and then said, "You failed before and come back stronger. You'll do it again. I believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself." The certainty in her voice, the complete absence of doubt about my ability to overcome this, it meant everything. In that moment, I knew her feelings were real. Nobody fakes that kind of steadfast support at 2 in the morning after a major failure. Or like last week when she took me to meet her mother for the first time. I was nervous, which is rare for me. I've met world leaders and presented to huge audiences and negotiated billion-dollar deals. But meeting Sarah's mother made me genuinely anxious. Because it mattered. Because it meant she was serious about us, serious enough to integrate me into her family. Her mother was warm but protective, asked me pointed questions about my intentions, made it clear that Sarah had been hurt before, and she wouldn't tolerate anyone hurting her daughter. And instead of being offended or defensive, I appreciated it. I respected her protectiveness. And I told her honestly, I love your daughter. I'm terrified of losing her. I'm not perfect and my life is complicated, but I promise to always be honest with her and to treat her with the respect and care she deserves. Sarah's mother studied me for a long moment, then nodded and said, Okay, that's all I needed to hear. Later, Sarah hugged me tight and whispered, Thank you for being real with her, thank you for not performing or trying to impress her, just being you. And in that moment, doubt seemed ridiculous. How could I question the feelings of someone who's introducing me to her family, who's building a future that includes me? But then the doubt comes back, usually late at night or during stressful periods when I'm not thinking clearly. It whispers that everyone can perform temporarily, that people can be genuine in moments without being genuine long-term, that feelings can change, that external pressure can erode even strong foundations. The doubt tells me to protect myself, to hold back, to not get too invested in case everything falls apart. And I hate that voice, hate what it's doing to me and potentially to us, but I don't know how to silence it permanently. Yesterday, Sarah asked me directly. We were having dinner, just the two of us, and she put down her fork and said, Do you trust me? Really trust me? And I froze because the honest answer is complicated. I said, I trust your intentions. I trust that your feelings are real right now. But I'm scared those feelings won't last when reality fully sets in. She was quiet for a minute, and I could see hurt flash across her face. Then she said, I can't prove the future to you, Elon. I can't guarantee that external pressure won't take a toll, or that we won't face challenges that test us. But I can tell you that I love you, genuinely love you, not what you represent or what you've achieved, but who you are as a person. And I'm choosing to be with you, actively choosing it every day, knowing full well how complicated it is. At some point, you're going to have to decide whether you believe me, or whether you're going to let fear sabotage this. She was right. She was absolutely right. But knowing something intellectually doesn't make it emotionally easier. I want to believe her completely. I want to surrender to this relationship without reservation or doubt. I want to propose, to make her officially my wife, to build the life together that I can see so clearly in my imagination. But I'm paralyzed by fear of making another mistake, of misreading someone again, of opening myself completely, only to be devastated when it falls apart. So here I am, stuck between love and fear, between hope and self-protection, between the life I want and the safety of emotional distance. I've been thinking about what it would take for me to fully trust Sarah, to believe without reservation that she loves me for me, and will stay committed through everything. And I keep coming back to time. Not just time passing, but time tested. I need to see her stay when things are hardest, when being with me is most difficult, when there's no glamour or excitement, just grinding pressure and criticism and chaos. I need to see that her love isn't conditional on circumstances being good or easy or fun. I need to know that when everything feels like it's falling apart, she's still there, choosing me, loving me, committed to us. But here's the paradox. The more I test her, the more I hold back and doubt and protect myself, the harder I make it for genuine intimacy to develop. By constantly questioning whether she really loves me, I'm creating distance and strain that could actually push her away, not because her feelings weren't real, but because dealing with constant mistrust becomes exhausting. I'm potentially destroying the very thing I'm trying to protect. And I know this. I can see the pattern. But knowing it and stopping it are two different things. Last night, I did something that surprised even me. I wrote her a letter, old-fashioned pen and paper, trying to express everything I've been feeling. I told her about finding her in that coffee shop and feeling like the universe shifted. I told her about falling in love with her mind first, then her heart, then every other part of her. I told her about seeing her as my future wife, about imagining growing old together, about wanting to build a life that includes her completely. But I also told her about my fears, my doubts, my struggle to fully trust after being hurt before. I told her about the voice in my head that says everyone eventually leaves, and my desperate wish to silence that voice but not knowing how. I told her that she deserves someone who can love her without reservation, and I want to be that person, but I'm not there yet, and I don't know if that's fair to her. I gave her the letter this morning. She read it while I watched, nervous in a way I haven't been since I was a teenager. When she finished, she looked up with tears in her eyes and said, "Thank you for being this honest. Thank you for trusting me with your fear, even while you're struggling to trust me with your heart." Then she said something that broke through some of my defenses. "I'm scared too, you know. I'm scared of loving you this much and having you hold back. I'm scared that no matter what I do or say, it won't be enough to overcome your past hurt. I'm scared that I'll wake up one day and realize you never fully let me in because you were too busy protecting yourself to take the risk of really being with me." Her fear mirrored mine in ways I hadn't fully considered. I'd been so focused on my own vulnerability, my own risk, that I hadn't fully appreciated hers. She's taking an enormous risk too, loving someone whose life is this public and complicated and demanding. She's betting her heart on someone who's been married and divorced multiple times, someone who comes with enormous baggage and complications. She's choosing to love someone who's openly admitting he's struggling to fully trust her. That takes incredible courage and strength. And maybe, just maybe, the fact that we're both scared means we both understand what's at stake. We both know this matters. We're both invested in making it work. We spent the rest of the day talking, really talking, about everything, about her fears and mine, about what we each need to feel secure and loved, about how we can build trust over time, about what our future could look like if we both commit to it fully. We talked about the challenges we'll face, the public scrutiny, and the demanding schedules and the complexity of blending our lives. We talked about her work and how important it is that she maintains her own identity and purpose, even as we build something together. We talked about my children and how she'd fit into that dynamic. We talked about marriage and what that would mean for both of us, the commitment and vulnerability it represents. And slowly, through all of that conversation, I felt something shift. Not a complete transformation, not all doubt vanishing instantly, but a slight opening, a willingness to take the next step despite fear, rather than waiting until fear completely disappears. Because maybe fear never completely disappears when something really matters. Maybe feeling scared means you're taking a real risk on something valuable. Maybe perfect certainty isn't possible or even desirable. Maybe love requires choosing someone despite fear, not waiting until you're fearless. By the end of our conversation, I heard myself saying something I hadn't planned to say. I want to marry you. Not someday or eventually, but actually. I want you to be my wife. I want to commit to building a life together and figuring out all the complicated details as we go. I'm still scared. I'm probably always going to have moments of doubt and insecurity because of my past. But I'm more scared of losing you because I held back than I am of getting hurt if this doesn't work out. You're worth the risk. We're worth the risk. Sarah looked at me with those incredible green eyes, the same eyes that caught my attention in a coffee shop 6 months ago, and smiled through tears. "Is that a proposal?" she asked. And I laughed, realized that yes, in my typical awkward, unromantic way, that was a proposal. "I guess it is," I said. "I don't have a ring yet, and I'm terrible at romantic gestures, and I just word vomited my proposal instead of planning something beautiful. But yes, I'm asking you to marry me. I'm asking you to take a chance on us despite all the complications and challenges. I'm asking you to be my partner in this completely imperfect but hopefully beautiful life." She said yes. Of course she said yes. And in that moment, some of my doubt receded. Not disappeared, but became manageable rather than paralyzing. We're engaged now, committed to each other, choosing to build a future together despite all the valid reasons it could be difficult. And I still have fears. Still have moments where I wonder if she really loves me or if external pressure will eventually be too much. But I also have hope now, real concrete hope, based not just on feelings but on a mutual decision to commit to each other and work through whatever challenges arise. This is my message to anyone listening who struggled with similar fears and doubts. Sometimes you have to choose love despite uncertainty. Sometimes you have to risk getting hurt because the alternative, protecting yourself so completely that you never truly connect with anyone, is actually worse. Sometimes the person worth risking everything for is standing right in front of you, and you just have to be brave enough to say yes to the possibility, yes to the risk, yes to building something real together, even though there are no guarantees. Sarah is my future wife now, not just in my imagination, but in reality. And while I still have moments of doubt, I also have moments of absolute certainty that this is right, that she's the person I want beside me through everything, that together we can navigate whatever challenges come our way. Love isn't about perfect certainty or absence of fear. Love is about choosing someone despite fear, committing to work through challenges together, building trust over time through consistent actions and honest communication. And that's what we're doing now, one day at a time, one choice at a time, building something real and lasting together.